Well, here we are talking about lots of stuff tonight. One of the things I want to do is go right into DFW with the shutdown, the government shutdown. Just to give you an example, whether you live in Dallas-Fort Worth like I do or not, I want to give you an example of how bad things are right now with the food stamps about to be shut down, whether you support them or not. I mean, obviously, we all support helping people that are needy and poor and stuff. But just to give you an example of one metropolitan area, Dallas-Fort Worth has about 7 to 8 million people in it where I'm at, and 100,000 people as of Saturday will not get their food stamps. The CEO of Tarrant Foodbank, the Tarrant Area Foodbank, which is, of course, Tarrant County, the Fort Worth side of the Metroplex, for those who don't know, you're looking at 2 or 3 million people at least that they serve, if not 4 million, roughly. And the CEO just said, quote, "This is scary," she told WFA TV Channel 8 in an interview. "No math, no equation tells you we would be able to shore up the gap that will be created by the loss of SNAP benefits." Food stamps. So that is thanks to the Democrats holding people's stomachs now, hijacking them for their own political benefits to get illegals health care and to get subsidies of Obamacare, which we'll get into in just a second. We also know this, the AFGE, the largest federal workers union, who is insanely pro-Democrat, Democrat voters, probably 80 or 90% Democrat, maybe 70 at least. Quote, they said this to NBC News, "It's time to pass a clean, continuing resolution and end this shutdown today. Because when folks who serve this country are standing in line for food banks after missing a second paycheck because of the shutdown, they aren't looking for partisan spin. They're looking for the wages they earned. The fact that they are being cheated out of this is a national disgrace." This is from, this just came in today as well. CNN says, you've seen the video, I'm sure, of Harry Ensign today, like I've played many of them for you. This time he says today, Republicans have improved their poll numbers during the shutdown. They've gone up, I think, 2 points. Democrats are in the worst position they've been in 20 years in this shutdown. It is blatantly obvious. The Republicans, I think, have voted like 13 or 14 times to end the shutdown. The Democrats won't do it, and they're going to let people starve and let air traffic controllers not get their paychecks and all sorts of people. They're going to lose on this bigly, period. Here we go. This is all over Obamacare. And by the way, Obamacare never lowered the cost of health care as Barack Hussein Obama, former President Hussein Obama, said he would do. In fact, it's increased it. I'll get to that in a minute. Because the subsidies, I'll get into it, I guess, now. The subsidies, I'm sorry, what I mean to say is the entire cost of Obamacare, has exploded the cost of health care. In fact, the entire cost of Obamacare, only 3% of the cost is subsidies. It is nothing. The reason subsidies are so high with Obamacare is because Barack Obama has made the insurance companies, the health insurance companies, rich with Obamacare. It does nothing to curb costs. It explodes costs. Now, Amy Klobuchar, senator from when I was in Minneapolis, St. Paul doing a show in the earlier 2000s, she was the Hennepin County District Attorney at the time. But Amy Klobuchar, now, of course, longtime senator from Minnesota, says, the reason why we must help get these subsidies back and why we're shutting the government down is because people like early retirees, Bill and Shelley, she talks about in something she said publicly in a recent social media post, early retirees. Well, the Wall Street Journal says the couple that she talks about as early retirees, meaning they retired early because they can afford it. You're going to pay their health care. You're going to subsidize their health care. The couple, actually, the Journal says, had north of $130,000 income last year. They are retired. And in their retirement, their income last year was $130,000. As the Journal says, do you, the taxpayer, many of whom we pay for their coverage at work? I'm sorry. They say, do you, people like you and me that pay for our coverage through our jobs, want to subsidize and underwrite baby boomers' early retirement? You and I are being asked by the Democrats to subsidize people, even in retirement, who retired early, making $130,000 in retirement, subsidize their health care. So get your ass to work. Excuse my language. Get your ass to work. Get a second job. Get a third job. So that these two well-off people can get cheaper health care, even though they can afford to do whatever the heck they want to. Subsidize that. Well, you know what I say to that? Subsidize this. Do taxpayers, that's what they said. Let me go on. Here, let me go to the second thing I wanted to share with you. By the way, the message, I wrote this in a quick half sentence, but this is exactly what the message should be. The message should be from the Republicans, and they pretty much have said this, but my message is simple. Open up the government so that we can fix this. We'll fix it, quote unquote. We'll debate it. We'll figure it out. But we won't do this until the government opens up. So you open up, and then we'll talk. And that's the whole strategy of the Republicans. They better not change on that. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated that 3.5 million fewer people will have health care in 2027 if the enhanced subsidies go away. I want to explain that. If the enhanced subsidies go away, 3.5 million will lose it by 2027. Here's the thing. I shared this with you, too, from a previous journal editorial from several weeks ago. The numbers of people who have left their insurance plan, I should say this, the number of people who work, who have insurance through their work, has gone up by around, I think it was around, is it 18 million or 8 million? And the number of people who have gone on Obamacare, of those people who have gotten more and more insurance coverage availability, they have dropped precipitously, while Obamacare the rolls have gone up precipitously. In fact, it is very disproportionate because there's a lot, what the evidence shows, what the demonstrative facts and research show, is there are millions and millions of people who have left their health care from work, even though they've gotten more care availabilities from work, to go on subsidized Obamacare programs. And that is the goal of former President Hussein Obama and the Democrats, to make socialized health care like Europe, to get us off of our subsidized our insurance plans with our jobs, and to get us on Obamacare. And that's what this is all about ultimately. Okay, now let me get to something else, because we can have a little Halloween fun here. I remember this. Let me first tell you this story. Virginia Halloween break-in suspects revealed as family members in prank. This is from Fox News. Basically, you had a woman and her 2 sons and a nephew. A woman and 3 minors or young adults. I don't know the exact age. But she and her 2 sons and her nephew staged an incident where they wore these horrifying type Halloween masks, like Jason and a scary clown mask, all these stuff, terrifying Halloween costumes, as Fox News described it. They show up at this house, and they're banging on the door, and they said it's your worst nightmare while banging on the front door of the home. They then entered through the backyard fence, caused property damage, leading authorities to treat the case as a suspected burglary. What they found out after 100 hours of investigation in this Virginia area, this Virginia home, was that it was the people that knew the people they were harassing and showing up at and scaring. What they didn't know is that the homeowner's brother was initially called to the house with a gun. So these people could have gotten shot and killed. And the 2 other additional adults and a child. So there's 7 people involved. 3 were filming, and 4 were involved in the physical scaring and going in the backyard and banging on the door and saying things. This could have easily gotten somebody shot and killed. Particularly, I mean, in my house, I'd be ready to shoot through that door and pop them and drop them if there was an attempt to get into the house. Number 2, 911 would be called right away. I'm sure it was. I don't know. But they didn't get them for a while. They had 100 hours of investigation. Don't bleep around with this crap. Now, I got to tell you this story, because this reminds me of this. I'll never forget this. I was a kid. I was between 7 and 12, maybe 6 and 12, and between 6 and 11. We're in a far suburb. My dad had retired as a Chicago police officer. He was in for 10 years. He retired after 10 years, which is technically what he did. And he's teaching law enforcement before going into federal law enforcement at that time. And so we're out in a far-flung suburb, which would be like the equivalent, if you're in Dallas-Fort Worth, of McKinney. We're sitting in our house. We're enjoying a Halloween night after getting the trick-or-treats and stuff. My brother and I are young. My little brother wasn't even born yet. We get a knock on the door in the back door. The back door. Nobody knocks on the front. Nobody rings the doorbell. We get a knock on the door at like 10 or 11 at night. I don't know, man, on Halloween night. And our back door was, it's a two-story house. So it had a lengthy, set of stairs. I don't know, it seemed like a long set of stairs going upward on it was a porch. It was a second-story porch, okay? Just wood. And so somebody had walked up those stairs and gone to our back door and knocked on the door. And they were in a Halloween mask, and it was horrifying. My dad grabbed his gun and was at the back door with his gun. He didn't show it to the person, but that's what he got. And there was about to be somebody getting shot and killed. It was my freaking uncle, who I love dearly. I love him very, very much. We love him, his wife, their kids, and their grandkids so much. I'm grateful for them in my life and to be my uncle. But he almost got shot and killed that night. My dad, he had come in from the city. That was the other thing. We didn't have people relatives, they all lived in the city of Chicago. So, we literally, we didn't think this was anybody we knew. We thought this was somebody that was do something really bad. I mean, obviously. Don't bleep around with this crap, man. That's insane. I want to switch gears now to radical Islamists. Not just Zohran Mamdani, but there's a complete, Fox News did a 7-page piece with a complete investigation showing there's conglomerates. There's a whole bunch of radical Islamist and pro-Islamist groups backed with millions of dollars from places like George Soros, Open Society, and other foundations that are far leftist that are trying to destroy this country with the leftist and Islamist policies. I'm going to share with you one or two that you've heard before, but some new Islamists that are openly supporting that Zohran Mamdani has gotten in New York City that are radical Islamist types. But the key is they are not, as Fox News says, and it's very true, they are not detrimental to his campaign. They are an asset to his campaign because here's the thing, the far leftist, the awfuls, the affluent white female liberals, and the almost the affluent white male liberals. Look at the night Zohran won the Democrat primary, and he's going to be the next mayor, which is sickening. I think it's going to get closer, but he's not going to lose. And it's white, young, 20-something to 30-something liberals, all white. Look at the crowd jumping up and down. Just Google Zohran Mamdani Victory Party, and you'll see it. They're all, almost every single one, like 95% white, young, affluent. That's who got him elected. That's who's voting. The working class people and the poor people, for the most part, are not voting for him. The Islamists are. And in fact, there's a good amount of Jewish support, which is so sickening and disgusting to see people who support somebody who literally hates them, and is a Jew hater. Let me get into some of these things I have on this from the Fox News investigation. And just some highlights from the 7 pages. I'm not going to go through every single thing, just the highlights. In January, Mamdani courted Imam Muhammad al-Bar of the Islamic Society of Bay Ridge, visiting his mosque months after this imam had publicly prayed to annihilate Israel. Also, in May, a couple months later, Imam Siraj Wahhaj, who I've talked about many times, Mamdani called him one of the nation's foremost Muslim leaders and a pillar of the Bed-Stuy community. It's Bedford-Stuyvesant community in Manhattan. Wahhaj served as a character witness, as you've heard, to Omar Abdel Rahman, the blind sheik convicted of masterminding the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. You don't get into politics. Wahhaj said this publicly in 1991 in a sermon. You don't get into politics because it's the American thing to do. You get involved in politics because politics can be a weapon to use in the cause of Islam, radical Islam. Remember, Siraj Wahhaj, some of his children that he raised and homeschooled were convicted of trying to raise up a terror cell and grabbing kids as young as 13 at least in a compound in New Mexico made of garbage, literally is what the authorities say. And they were charged and prosecuted for teaching children as young as 13 to wage jihad, how to rapidly load and unload firearms in the cause of jihad. This is who Zohran Mamdani is a Jew-hating terrorist supporter. There's no question. Radical Islam. And these young, affluent liberals, whites, are literally, along with Muslims, literally going to elect a man who wants to kill the Jews and wage jihad. But he's going to do it with a smile and through politics, and through gaining power, influence, and money. You don't get into politics because it's the American thing to do, he said. You get involved because politics can be a weapon to use for the cause of Islam. Wahaj also has denounced the U.S. government, saying it is controlled by Shaitan, the Arabic word for the devil. Government is controlled by the devil. He urged Muslims not to befriend non-believers. He condemned homosexuality as a disease of the society and supported Islamic laws that punish sex outside of marriage with 100 lashes and stonings. So the very gay and trans and LGBTQ and the radical leftists that vote for him will be killed, or their friends will be killed in Zohran's world if he takes control. Wahaj urged Muslims to donate to the legal defense of the since-convicted Aifa Siddiqui, a Pakistani neuroscience called Lady Al-Qaeda. So this guy who is the pillar of the community that Zohran campaigned with, took pictures with, and posted social media saying, I love this guy, he's my bestie, said, let's raise money for Lady Al-Qaeda, who was caught in Afghanistan with terrorists, because she's a terrorist, Al-Qaeda, with WMD, and she's a scientist. She was getting WMD to come kill us here, and American soldiers in Afghanistan. This is who Zohran is besties with and campaigns with. Yeah, Lady Al-Qaeda was trying to kill the U.S. troops in Afghanistan. Over the years, Siraj Wahaj's sermons has called for an Islamic government, Islamic America governed by Sharia law. This is where he's taking us. This is where Zohran and the leftists of the Democrat Party, controlled by radical leftists and Islamists, are taking us. Other imams now back Mamdani's mayoral run, including Imam Talib Abdur Rashid, who publicly defended Rafiq Zabir, an American doctor who joined Al-Qaeda and was subsequently sentenced to 25 years in prison. In 2008, the same imam defended Sami al-Aryan, a Palestinian-American professor who the U.S. later deported to Turkey for conspiring to provide services to Palestinian Islamic Jihad, terrorists who killed Jews, radical Islamists. Still in the U.S., his wife, al-Aryan's wife, joined the anti-Israel encampments in Columbia University. It is all tied together. Get young, dumb, foolish liberals who to vote for socialism and Islamism, to kill the Jews, marginalize them, and get this country to be a Democrat, socialist, or a communist, socialist, Islamist, friendly government. It's unbelievable. It's terrifying, isn't it? It's real. In Manhattan, Imam Khalid Latif, the executive director of the Islamic Center at NYU, has been another prominent Mamdani backer, says Fox News. In 2012, he led a pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia that included Omar Mateen. Does this sound familiar, Omar Mateen? Now, the left still believes, and will tell you and will lie, that the attack on the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, and I have a friend who went there, he's gay, he went there fairly regularly and was supposed to be there that night but wasn't, and he could have been one of the people slaughtered in that terrorist attack. The left will tell you, and they will lie and say it was a Trump supporter. I heard somebody on some mainstream thing saying it was a Trump supporter. It was a radical Islamist named Omar Mateen. So, in Manhattan, the executive director of the Islamic Center at NYU, who's a huge backer of Mamdani, led a pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia in 2012 with Omar Mateen, who had later murdered 49 people, who would slaughter and kill 49 gay people at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, the deadliest anti-gay attack in United States history. Allahu Akbar! Mamdani! For many Muslim political organizations backing Mamdani, these clerics are not liabilities but assets, says Fox, serving as trusted gatekeepers to the city's growing Muslim voters. There you go. Now you know. And remember when Mamdani said, my auntie is the real victim because she was afraid to wear her hijab? The auntie who never was alive at that point, the auntie who, actually not that she wasn't alive at that point, the auntie who doesn't wear a hijab, that auntie, yeah. And then, he got caught, and he's, well, that was my dad's cousin. And he said, the takeaway from my more than 10-minute address about Islamophobia and race in this city was that? Yes. Yes, because you seek to use Islam as a cudgel to attack us, to shame us, and to bring in more Islamism and Islamists and to wage a jihad, as the FBI caught on its bugging of a room. I believe it was a motel room in Boston with the largest ever terrorism financing case in United States history for the Holy Land Foundation, based in Dallas-Fort Worth, where I'm at, in Richardson. They raised, I think, $6 million to slaughter Jews for Hamas, but lied and pretended for radical Islamists to kill Jews in Israel, but lied and pretended it was for Palestinian aid. Yes, and by the way, CARE is an unindicted co-conspirator in that case, the largest ever terrorism financing case in U.S. history to kill Jews, pretending to be aid for Palestine. I'm going to get to CARE in a minute because they're super into Mamdani and other just sick radical Islamist things. Mamdani also hosted a Twitch streamer named Hassan Piker. You've heard of him. He said America deserved 9/11. Yes, the Babylon Bee was right today when they had a headline that says, I forget exactly what it said. It says something like, let me pull it up here because it's really good. Here it is. Mamdani vows to knock down World Trade Center to build more affordable housing. That sounds about right. Now, what happens in these Muslim student associations in our high schools? What happens with these Muslim students in our Muslim student association? What kind of things do they do? Well, we know for sure that 2 Muslim student associations at 2 separate high schools in Virginia reenacted what appears to be October 7th attacks, where they throw a bag over somebody's head who will not comport, who will not agree to their Islamic views. So they take them like Hamas did. They throw a bag over, they kidnap them, throw them in the back of a car, and drive away. This happened at 2 separate high schools with 2 separate Muslim student associations. Do you think they're getting taught in their mosques to hate Jews and that October 7th was good? Do you think maybe they're being taught in their homes to hate Jews and October 7th was good? Sounds like it. At Langley High School in Langley, Virginia, they put a bag over a student's head while lifting him up and tossing him into the trunk of a car and quickly drive away. The same Muslim Student Association where anti-Israel students replaced listen to this. This is the same Muslim Student Association where anti-Israel students replaced the stars with the U.S. flag, the stars on the U.S. flag with swastikas. So they're putting the stars on the U.S. flag as swastikas, and they're reenacting October 7th kidnapping of Jews who won't conform. This is the current state at least 2, one Muslim student association in one high school, and another one reenacted the October 7th. Do we have a problem with Islamic students either being taught radical Islamism and to hate Jews in their homes and in their mosque, or one or the other, or both? It sounds like it. At Thomas Jefferson Middle School, a separate one, they put kafayas over classmates' head while putting another in a plastic bin before they're dragged away for refusing to join. That's exactly right. Infidel. Kill you, enslave you, or convert you. Several students from the school of Thomas Jefferson School were allegedly suspended, prompting outrage. So they reenact October 7th and make it a joke. And CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, is now outraged for these students being suspended for reenacting the October 7th attacks in their own way. The CARE, the unindicted co-conspirator in the largest ever terrorism financing history in the United States history, CARE, says there's no different from other clubs that do this. It's racist tropes and stereotypes about Muslims and Arabs. You mean radical Islamists who, untold times, have committed terror attacks, like New Orleans? Oh, like the Pulse nightclub shooting. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on, as we know. Meantime, this is one story I wanted to share with you, too. British Muslim. Oh, yes. This guy is a British Muslim who was here. He's a radical Islamist, pro-Hamas terrorist. And he was here doing sermons and speaking events until we caught him in the United States of America because he was flagged on social media and sent to DHS, and DHS grabbed him, put him in ICE holding, and he's going to get deported out of here because he loves Hamas, he loves terrorists, and he hates Jews. This guy is a British Muslim journalist and commentator. He was grabbed in San Francisco after he spoke. And look at this, 10 days after October 7th, this guy, who we have grabbed and set for deportation, was filmed encouraging people to celebrate the victory of October 7th terror attack in Israel, to celebrate the victory of Hamas. Quote, how many of you feel in your hearts, when you go to the news that it happened? How many of you feel the euphoria of slaughtering Jews, kidnapping them, raping them? CARE is outraged this guy's been taken. Council on American Islamic Relations. Our attorney and partners are working to address this injustice by him being grabbed and set for deportation. We call on ICE to immediately account for and release him, whose only crime, quote unquote, is criticizing a foreign government that committed genocide. No. The Israeli population, the Palestinian population, until October 7th was continually increasing year after year after year. That's not genocide. Okay? Second of all, he had just appeared at a CARE gala in Sacramento Saturday. So he's in Sacramento CARE Saturday. Apparently he was in CARE in San Francisco, and then he was going to Florida CARE. So he was going around with his pro-terrorist, Jew hatred, and pro-Hamas propaganda, and CARE's mad that he was scooped up for deportation. They're mad. We want this terrorist who feels euphoric at the October 7th attack. We love him. We need him. He invigorates us. He gets us excited. Allahu Akbar. Anyone? And last but not least, the new bite that came out. You've heard it all day today, the new soundbite, but it said with Zohran Mandami saying just 2 years ago. So the comments where he said that the NYPD was racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety was during St. George Floyd, blessed be his name, 2020. So that's when he was saying the NYPD is racist, queer, anti-queer, all that stuff. So his excuse was St. George Floyd, blessed be his name. Well, 3 years later, when there was no St. George Floyd, blessed be his name, going on in the air, he said this: we have to make it clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. So, 3 years after St. George Floyd, blessed be his name, he is still saying the NYPD is just like Israel and the IDF. He hates cops, he hates Israel, and he hates Jews, and he hates the IDF. This Jewish assemblyman says, who represents a the heavily Jewish 41st district in southern Brooklyn, says, sometimes it's hard to tell if Zohran hates Jews more than he hates cops, or if he hates cops more than he hates Jews. That's exactly right. One more little quick thing I had here. To claim that NYPD is on your neck and that it's Buddhist laced by the IDF is the recycling of a dangerous conspiracy theory, says another rabbi, that Jews and the Jewish state are the hidden hand behind the oppression everywhere. That's exactly what Zohran and every radical Islamist thinks. The Jews are everywhere. Radical Islamists and Zohran think the Jews are everywhere, that the Jews control the banks, that the Jews control the media, that the Jews control America and everything. That's how radical Islamists and Zohran Mandami think. It's sickening to think how many Jews, how many liberals and whites are going to vote for this guy because they're so stupid and ignorant. They're ushering in their own destruction. They're biblical fools. Like where God says, the Bible says, they can professing themselves to be wise. God gave them to their own selfish desires. They were fools, and God gave them to their own selfish desires. And they men lay with men, and this and that and this and that. So all these sins, he's like, okay, you guys are awesome, you're wise, even though you're fools. Go ahead and degrade yourself all the way down and destroy yourselves. Republicans are moving to codify Trump crackdown on illegal alien truckers. You got two bills that are being proposed. One is Mary Miller, Republican from Illinois, from suburban Chicago, who follows me on Twitter, and I follow her because I'm on Chicago a good amount, filling in on a great station there regularly. She introduced the Stop Aliens from Evading Driving Laws Act, the SAFE Act, in September. But also, other lawmakers proposed the Secure Commercial Driver Licensing Act of 2025 to prevent illegals from obtaining a CDL, commercial driver license. I want to tell you, I just can't say it enough to you. I've told you almost every day, but you got to hear this. You know that an illegal Indian who was given a CDL by California, and I believe also Washington State, but at least California, killed 3 people, according to authorities, in a crash where he was intoxicated, according to the charges. You've seen the video of one of the cars bursting into flames in California this past week. And then several weeks earlier, another Indian illegal was driving in when he jackknifed a semi, doing highly illegal maneuver on the Florida highway, killing 3 people, according to authorities. The state of Oklahoma did a sting with ICE, pulling over every truck driver in one afternoon, and they pulled over. They got 7 illegals driving within 3 hours, and it literally filled up the lot they had. They didn't think they'd be getting anywhere near that, so they filled up a lot. They had to stop that day. 2 or 3 days later, they went back in, and they got, I think, an additional 17 truckers in one day. By the end of that week, all the truckers were rerouting around Oklahoma. There is an unbelievable, unthinkable amount of people who have no business. They don't speak any English. There is another video. I think I should pull this up for you real fast because it's worth it. It'll take me a second, but I want to play it for you because it's that important to play. There's another one that just came out from a cop. I don't know what state this is in, but I'm going to play the audio because I retweeted it this morning. He pulls a guy over, and it's unthinkable because the guy literally speaks no English. He can't understand anything. It's breathtaking. These people are all over our roads, and they're going to kill. What I'm concerned about, I was talking to one of my dear friends today over lunch, and he drives a lot to all over the region, Arkansas. He was just he goes all over the region with tourism and stuff. He's been able to get out and do things that he hasn't been able to do for decades in his life. And he's one of these guys, like my friend or me or my wife or my kids, going back to Chicago, which we go once or twice a year, is going to get killed because of this. And I can't seem to find it. I'll try one more quick solution here. If not, I'll just move on. But it's just sickening. This cop gives him every chance, and the guy can't speak any English. He knows nothing. He's literally parked on the side of a highway illegally, and the cop pulls up, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I park here 3 hours. He goes, "Yeah, but this is illegal." And he's like, well, he couldn't even understand him. So he pulls him aside, and he asks these test questions that they're supposed to ask, and he fails every one except for one, and he barely even knew what the hell guy. It's unbelievable. So there are thousands and thousands of people driving tens of thousands of pounds. I don't know what the average load is. I know that a lot of truckers follow me and listen to me, and I love you guys very much. But this is a massive problem. No illegal, and no illegal should ever have a license to do anything in this country. So I just want you to be aware of this. More and more of these are going to happen. It's disgusting. It's enraging, and it's scary. Speaking of illegals, judge moves to micromanage ICE defenses against Chicago rioters. This is highly unconstitutional and is going to be struck down. And I'm citing law professor Jonathan Turley from George Washington University because you cannot micromanage a police agency. And that's what this federal judge, who's a leftist, is doing in Chicago. Listen to what she said. She's making Greg Bovino, the head of Border Patrol, literally check in with her at the end of every day at the courthouse. She literally has ordered them and forced them to get cameras, which is fine if they want to, but you can't just snap your fingers. One law enforcement official said you can't just snap your fingers and everybody has cameras the next day. This is, these are expensive things. Some parts of DHS have them, some parts don't, all sorts of stuff. But listen to the absolute tomfoolery of this woman and her micromanagement of Border Patrol. Quote, "Kids dressed in Halloween costumes walking to a parade do not pose an immediate threat to safety and to a law enforcement officer. They just don't, and you can't use riot control weapons against them." They're literally patrolling, going, "There's kids in Halloween masks. Let's bomb them." No, that's when they were attacked doing their job by rioters that showed up and pro-illegal people that were showing up throwing rocks, harassing them, boxing them in. And there happened to be nearby kids with a trick-or-treat parade or some kind of a thing like that, Well, if they're getting attacked, they're not going to not respond, and they're going to go hit the people with tear gas or whatever it is because they're being attacked, and rocks are being thrown at them, bottles are being thrown, they're being boxed in by cars. This crazy judge also warned Bovino that agents must warn crowds that they intend to use gas. Hey, this is a warning. This warning has to be, I'm going to deploy tear gas. The warning really has to be, include what it is you're going to do before you do it and allow people time to comply. You can wait in 2 minutes. Hi, in 2 minutes, rock hits you in the head. It's just, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's not a law enforcement expert, and she's not allowed to micromanage a federal police agency. This needs to go to a higher court, and she'll get struck down. I don't know why that hasn't happened. I don't know what's going on with that. She also ordered Bovino to appear at the federal courthouse at the end of every weekday until November 5th hearing to report to her any use of force his agents have taken each day and make sure officers are obeying her temporary restraining order, which prohibits the use of tear gas. This is insane and puts them in jeopardy. Meanwhile, Dick Durbin in Illinois compares the illegals being rounded up. Remember, illegals, people with final orders of deportation, criminals, etc., or just illegals, doesn't matter. He compares them being rounded up to World War II Japanese internment camps. You know, a cursory search online shows you that the overwhelming majority of the Japanese that were rounded up in internment camps were United States citizens. The rest of them were apparently, from my research, cursory research, were lawful residents. I don't even know if any of them, let alone one, were illegals. But the majority of them were citizens. The rest were, I believe, lawful residents based on my research. So, cursory research. So here's this idiot Dick Durbin saying there was one parallel in history I can think of that has occurred in my lifetime, and that of the course would be the internment of 120,000 Japanese Americans during World War II. Japanese, keyword, Japanese Americans. Illegals, Dick Durbin, are not Americans. Illegals are not Americans. They're not even lawfully present. So, no. Gone. By the way, speaking of Japan, how cool was it for the new female prime minister of Japan to link arms with Trump and go down the stairs, or was it the escalator or something like that? My favorite thing was Shinzo Abe was dearly loved by Trump, and Trump said he was one of his best friends. Internationally, one of his absolute best friends. Shinzo's wife was there, his widow was there, because she was he was assassinated by a Japanese leftist or crazed terrorist guy. In Japan, they let you get real close to the politicians, even the former president, which is a huge problem. And it was a homemade gun. They don't allow guns there at all, which is uncool. But Shinzo's widow gave Trump his putter. And, it was a beautiful moment, and I love our very close relationship with Japan. The Prime Minister is awesome. She's a huge fan of Margaret Thatcher. That's why she wears blue suits. She was a drummer in a heavy metal band when she was younger. She rides motorcycle, and I just heard this today for the first time. She made her husband take her last name. So I'm a huge fan. And she's a conservative, so that's great. And she's really rabidly anti-illegal immigration like Trump, and I am. And this is what I voted for, right? Here's a Biden illegal that was supposed to be deported in 2023. He had been previously convicted on 4 separate occasions for traffic offenses, but Joe Biden said, you know what? He's supposed to be deported right now, but you know what? He's ruled a non-enforcement priority. We're going to let him stay here. What did he do? He has just been arrested for raping an 11-year-old girl. This is why you don't hire illegals for your house, anything at your house. A family that hired him to remodel their bathroom says that she heard noises one day, the mom did, and she heard noises in the daughter's room. She knocked. It wasn't open. She took a butter knife, jammed the door open, and saw the illegal that she had redone the bathroom naked in her 11-year-old's bed. He had raped her that day, and also he had raped her 2 times before, breaking into the house to rape their 11-year-old daughter. 3 rapes. And Joe Biden said, you should leave. You're supposed to leave. You're set to be deported. We got you after 4 traffic offenses and just because you're an illegal. But you know what? We want you to stay here so you can rape a young girl 3 times. That every time that we see this, that's what I say. We want you to stay here so you can murder somebody. We want you to stay here illegal from India so that you can kill 3 people in a car crash. The message is clear. Joe Biden has done more to destroy this country, our freedoms, our rights, our sovereignty than any president has in my memory. The New Yorker. This is so awesome. Corinne Jean-Pierre is such a DEI hire. And it's beyond blatantly obvious. It has been for years, but she was such a DEI hire. She can't even hide the fact that she's an absolute moron who was only hired because she's gay and black with DEI. But look at this from the New Yorker. This is great. This is what the reporter asked her from the New Yorker. This is what you wrote your book about. I'm not bringing this up randomly about Joe Biden being forced out. No, I know, but you just said that to me. Right? I hate when they say right. Right? People say that every other sentence now on Fox News or anywhere. Like, right? So, right? And, when we, right? I hate that. Anyway, she says, he stepped down. He's out of the picture and we lost. The book for me is really about the moment we're in. When I wrote the book, The Broken White House, in the subtitle, I'm talking about the Trump White House. She literally wrote, broken White House. What's the title? It's because it's literally it's about inside the White House, and a look inside a broken White House. A look inside a broken White House. And she says, no, that's about Trump. You were inside of the White House for at least 2 years of the administration. You're talking about a look inside the White House and why you left the Democrat Party, supposedly. No, it's about the broken White House now. I mean, the woman, she doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know what to say. She can't defend herself. She can't be bold because if she is, then she's too stupid to be able to defend it or explain it. She contradicts herself tremendously. This is what happens when you do DEI hires. This is what happens. We get a KJP or a Kamala. Quote, the way he was treated, if you had seen something like that in the Democrat Party, talking about Joe Biden, the way he was treated, please point that out. When asked for an example of this disrespect of Biden, she says, it was nasty articles that were coming out daily. The New Yorker responds, so you think asking him to step aside was okay, but there shouldn't have been nasty articles? You're talking about a grade schooler who can't defend her positions and contradicts herself like a grade schooler. So, another excerpt of this interview that makes her look so stupid because she is. So, what I was confused by was you saying that you didn't think Harris could win, the New Yorker points out. But then you attack people. You say that you didn't think Harris could win, but then you attack other people who didn't seem to think Harris could win by saying they were insulting her. So I can say, if I'm Corinne Jean-Pierre, I can say that I don't think she can win. But if others say she can't win, I'm going to attack them for insulting her. That's her position. The New Yorker said that, and it's exactly right. I think that's about it on that. It's stunning how stupid this woman is. But I love it. A look inside a broken White House. No, it's not about Biden. It's about Trump. You've been inside the Trump White House? One more thing. The New Yorker writer also pressed her on her writing that she didn't think. Oh, wait, no, that's already one of the other things I had. Doubling up on my notes. Okay. Oh, this is from Puck News. A reporter at Puck News tweeted this out and had a link to his article from June. He says, the KJP story from June held up. As one White House reporter told me at the time, quote, she was easily the most incompetent and irrelevant White House press secretary ever. Joe Biden, DEI. You get Kamala and KJP. They're disaster, but they are black, and one of them is gay, so that's why they got the job, even though they're horrible. By the way, what does that actually do for the image of people who are black and or gay or both? The average person doesn't want to be associated with these people and their stupidity, but DEI does these things, and it's just DEI is a disaster, as we all know. Okay, Salina, if you're one of my North Texas peeps, Salina High School. I actually, over my lunch with my friend I told you about earlier, I brought this up today. You have the Salina football coach, Bill Elliott, placed on leave. His son, who was a coach and a teacher in Salina ISD, arrested on new second-degree felony charges of possession or promotion of child pornography following an ongoing police investigation. Reportedly, he was moved to cover this up, too. So here's the thing that I want to mention. My friend who I had lunch with today was in prison for a long time, and I met him through a ministry. I met him at if you recall, if you watch this podcast with regularity, I was at a 3-day retreat, a Christian retreat, about 2 weeks ago. And I met him there. We were sitting right by each other, and we just instantly bonded. Some of the guys at the ministry were in, there's great prison ministries. There's amazing prison ministries. And he was ministered to while in prison for a long time. And I love this man. And we were talking about this today, and he talked about how, you have to hear this. I hope to have him on the podcast for a lengthy conversation, for one heck of a perspective. But he talked about they were clearing out a wing for sex offenders. And he talked about how some people that were in there were people that had sexual relations with somebody that was like 15 or 16, whatever the age is, below the age of and that's not okay. It's a crime. But he was saying how they were being lumped in with people that rape children, child molesters. And, like a child, like an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old. And he said that when he would sit at they would sit at these tables for administrative events that in the prison. He said these sex offenders, they would literally make it seem, they would say it was that she wanted it. Now, I'm not talking about the 15 or 16-year-olds, which is still illegal and wrong. Don't get me wrong, that's statutory rape. I'm talking about the little children. And so I said to him, my theory, he talked about how sick they are, child molesters. And he was in prison with them for years. And I said to him, my theory has always been, and he would know more than I ever know because he was around child molesters all the time in prison for years. When he wasn't that, but at all. But I said to him, I said, my theory always has been on child molesters, is that there's a chip in there. It's like a chip, like a computer chip in their brain or whatever, that literally is can never be taken away. It'll always be there. And even on their dying day, they could be dying in their last breath and see a child next to them and smile and look over and try to grab that child's genitals. These people are always going to be this way. They always will be, and they have been. Now, I also say, and he agrees with me on that point, but he also agrees with me on another point. And again, he would know because for years and years and years he was in prison and had to be around them. And he studied all sorts of people, different offenders and different types. He studied. This man has a million stories, and they're fascinating. And I also said, I don't think any sex offender, any child molester, was not molested as well. They all have been molested. Somebody molested them. So my belief, and I don't have any proof, but this guy who's been accused of child pornography, I believe he was molested. I don't have proof. I don't have fact. It's just my speculation. I believe he was molested. You do not look at this stuff and get into this stuff unless you have had something happen to you where some evil person has bastardized your childhood, your view of sexuality by offending you as a child. There's my theory. I'm sticking to it. Speaking of bastardized sexuality, in Indiana, transgenders to another transgender terrorist who wanted to kill people and shoot up a school. Another transgender terrorist. It is a mental illness, and instead of being gently shepherded and loved into getting help for their mental illness, they are being encouraged and militarized, turned into militants to radicals to kill people who don't agree with them. Here is an 18-year-old transgender person in Indiana charged with conspiracy to commit murder and 2 counts of intimidation to commit terrorism. identifies it's a girl a woman who says she's a man. She pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit murder, level 2 felony. She must meet with mental health professionals, blah, blah, blah. But she planned to attack a high school in Indiana, and it was uncovered when the FBI in Indianapolis received a tip and contacted the Metro Police Department that she was at. She planned a shooting, had access to an AR-15, and ordered a bulletproof vest. She was infatuated with Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland high school terrorist shooter who carried out the Parkland shooting. And a search of her home found a shrine to school shooters Dylan Roof, Cruz, the Charleston Church, Ethan Crumbly, who carried out the Oxford High School shooting in Michigan, a photo album and buttons featuring the shooters' faces. They found notebooks, just like the transgender terrorist in Nashville, just like the transgender terrorist in Minneapolis. They found notebooks in which she identifies as Dex, a transgender male who has a lot of homicidal thoughts. I hope whoever reads this takes acknowledgement and maybe use it for your massacre. She wrote about wanting to harm others in January, saying people needed to be killed or wiped away from humanity. This is the kind of satanic writing. These people are demon-possessed, mentally ill, period. In fact, that guy in Minneapolis, I played you his satanic laughs. He absolutely loved and worshipped Satan. He's a Satanist. The same thing about that transgender terrorist in Nashville. These people are demonically possessed, I do believe. And that's not hyperbole. Let's see. Authorities uncovered Discord and Snapchat messages where she used the handle Crazy Nicholas as a Nicholas Cruz and described plans for Parkland Part 2. I'll be honest, she said, I'm close to shooting mine up. I have an AR-15. Investigators said she planned to carry out the attack at lunchtime because that would present the most target-rich environment. Be aware. Speaking of terrorists and leftist terrorists, Pam Bondi, a leftist terrorist man, posted on social media, wanted Pam Bondi reward, $45,000 dead or alive, preferably dead. This was reported by Fox News and Breitbart. This guy had a sniper scope dot on the photo of Pam Bondi. He has a long criminal history that includes convictions for stalking and domestic violence. Here's a leftist terrorist. His TikTok account features anarchist symbols, links to anti-government literature, a link to an anarchist FAQ book, fact book, right? Two more things. Jennifer Lawrence says that she's going to get a boob job soon because she had her second child and it's not holding up the way she'd like it to, and she's an actress. She still believes she'd be getting a boob job even if she didn't work in Hollywood. No, I don't think you would. You probably couldn't afford one if you weren't at that level, and I'm not knocking you, but here's the thing. What I admire tremendously are actresses, because actors men never seem to need it, or if they do, you can't notice it most of the time. Men seem to get away with not needing it, quote unquote. Women, I admire and respect the actresses who do not get the plastic surgery. I told my wife this. It's all the time we're watching something. Like, I can't remember. It was Glenn Close. There was another actress, kind of a peer of Glenn Close. I can't remember her name now. It'll come to me maybe. But the point is, these ladies are, Golden Globe, Academy Award-winning actresses, etc. And the best actresses are the ones I admire that as they age, they don't get plastic surgery. And I watched that, and I noticed that, and I admire that. I really do. Nicole Kidman has butchered herself. What's her name from Friends? I can't remember her. Courtney Cox has butchered herself. And by the way, my wife has made this and noticed this. And you'll notice it from now on. The women like Nicole Kidman and Courtney Cox, they hide their ears. You know why they hide their ears? Because their ears are massive because they're older. They get not massive, but they get really big. Your nose and your ears keep growing. So they hide their ears. Watch that with these people that are older who do plastic surgery, the women. Instead of hiding it, just be yourself and be a great actress. And if that means taking parts that are for older people because you're older, then do it. That's my thing. Reinvent yourself, man. Or you can, I was going to say like Madonna did over the years. She reinvented herself, but then she butchered herself to the point her face is shaped like a teardrop. And she looks like a freak show, unfortunately. And she's like a granny in a nursing home wearing lingerie, whatever you call it, the stockings or whatever, and coming out with like a walker and like, oh my gosh. Doesn't end well if you're Madonna, I can tell you that. What else do I have here? Oh. This is so stupid and crazy and looks like it's fake news. Mississippi highway crash releases aggressive research monkey that have hepatitis C, herpes, and COVID. So there's like 20 or 30, whatever, 40-pound rhesus monkeys, I believe it is. The truck that was carrying them crashed. Quote there, here's the headline that was tweeted out by the Mississippi Sheriff's Department where this happened, or troopers or whatever. The monkeys are approximately 40 pounds. They are aggressive to humans. They required personal protective equipment to handle. We are continuing to look for one monkey that's still on the loose. Do not approach the monkeys. If you see one, call 911. And, of course, they're aggressive, hepatitis C, herpes, and COVID. Wow. Is this real? Yes, it's real. Wow. I love it. It's so funny. It's stupid, ridiculous. It seems so fake. Do not approach the monkeys. If you see one, call 911. They shot and killed all the monkeys except for one, unfortunately. But